Hello and welcome to another edition of the Casual Hour, a podcast ostensibly about video games, but mostly about putting hats on birds. My name is Bobby, aka Lumberjack Smack. Joining me are my two co-hosts, Mr. Johnny Amizich and the gamer on the go, Chase Koeneke.
AKA at Chase Koeneke.
AKA Johnny's a bitch.
That's not what I would pick, but okay.
All right.
How you guys doing? It's been a month. We have not said a single word to each other in 30 days.
This is the first time I've seen you assholes since then.
Not true.
That's not.
We have not said a single thing outside of this recording. This is the first time I've seen or spoken to these two in a month. I have no idea where they've been or what they've been doing.
I got ramen with Johnny like a week ago.
We did.
Did you guys just like go get some shitty ramen and microwave it together and talk about life? Or
no, it wasn't shitty. It was good.
It was pretty good.
It was my first time getting real ramen.
Where'd you go? I'll be the judge of this.
Went to Nami. Is that what it was? Nami ramen.
Yeah, in Clayton. It's pretty good.
Johnny made you come down by him. I get it.
Well, I had the day off. A rare day off. Well, I took the day off. And I had invited you to do something, and you decided you didn't like me anymore. So then Johnny and I were like, well, let's just get ramen.
I don't talk to you guys unless it's 30 days in between. That was the deal.
Fair.
And, you guys broke protocol, and here I am trying to keep this boat afloat, and you guys are out, lading, tramping some ramen downtown Clayton. So...
Well, to be fair, I had the curry. I did not have ramen. Which was also delicious.
Johnny, I don't even why do I entertain this?
I don't know.
So for those of you who are tuning in, I'm sorry first and foremost. We are a monthly podcast now, once a weekly podcast, but we've grown up a little bit here at the Casual Hour, if you couldn't tell.
We've matured.
We have seasoned. Grace,
there was that time where we were like a every 2 weeks podcast too.
Yeah, we were trying to find. That was
we
were finding ourselves. Might as well have been college,
There was that time where Johnny was gone forever.
I went on a spirit quest for 6 months.
And there was another time that Bobby was gone for a while. I think there was like 2 weeks in that whole time that I was gone.
We're back and better than ever, is what we're trying to say.
We're back.
We're back. We're back.
Each month.
It's like that dinosaur movie.
The Land
from the
Before
90s.
Time?
Or the dinosaur.
Or the dinosaur.
It was okay.
Are
it
you
wasn't great.
Littlefoot?
We're back.
Please.
Please stop.
Please.
So what we do is we get together, and just pardon the interruption if you do hear some barking and stuff. We have a new puppy at the house that is being put to bed right now, and much like Johnny, does not like to be told when to go to bed. But
I choose my own bedtime.
That's fair. Each month we get together and tell you about a game that we have played that we like. It doesn't have to be a current game. It can be any game. It's our game. We tell you about it. You like that game, hopefully. And we do talk a little bit about some of the current events that are happening. And we'll probably... You guys want to kick off with news or end with news?
Let's end with news.
We'll end with news.
Yeah.
One might say we'll save the best for last. Because,
It's certainly going to be better than whatever you two have to say.
Johnny, I remember being, I would say at that point in time in my life, I was around 6 years old. I was a frequent goer of Pizza Hut.
I was also the Pizza Hut buffet with the dessert pizza.
So we didn't get the Pizza Hut buffet until a little bit later in life. We had just a very traditional Pizza Hut. But we were part of the Book It Club. And if you got your Book It, you got a free personal pan pizza.
Hell yeah.
That probably accounted for most of the weight that I had when I was a young kid.
Absolutely.
It's still going on today.
The Book It Club?
In fact, yeah.
My weight? Thank you, Chase.
No, the Book It Club. In fact, the last time I went to Pizza Hut, which was like a couple weeks ago, I think, when I went in, there was this woman who was trying to trade in the Book It coupons for some personal pan pizzas for her kids, and they're like, we can't accept these. She got really pissed. Like, what are you talking about? You can't accept it. And they said, well, our policy now is that there are too many parents who are stealing them from their kids and using them for their lunch breaks. And they just get a personal pan pizza over lunch, and then the kid never gets it. So they require the kid to be there to present the coupon.
Keeping them honest, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, it makes sense. You make sure the kid gets the pizza. On the other hand, like, this woman was clearly trying to like pick up 4 personal pan pizzas for her kids to take home to them.
Air quoting her
She
kids.
was going to eat all of those in the parking lot.
Maybe, but she seemed like a nice
I'm not too proud.
And she was going to go home, throw the crust in her children's faces, and be like, start reading some more books.
Read, you slob.
I do like the idea of somebody just having like a book farm in the back of their house.
All right, here's I'm gonna get on eBay.
You kid, hurry up! I need some more pizzas. I'm hungry.
A Book It Club. We're gonna start a back alley Book It Club here at the Casual Hour.
All right,
and the 3 of us are gonna try to successfully get 3 Book It personal pan pizzas.
I don't want to read that much.
I'll forge it. So I'm at this Pizza Hut, Johnny.
Hey, Johnny's got a kid.
We can make Jude read.
Johnny, maybe that kid should start reading a lot.
No, he loves to read.
Let's do it. Let's just make Jude a pizza farm.
There we go. Now we're cooking.
So
pizza.
And Jude doesn't like pizza, so
it's
really,
a win-win.
I could eat that personal pan.
He learns something.
I could eat it and feel zero guilt.
Also, how did you fuck up your kid into not liking pizza?
I should correct that. It's not that he doesn't like it; it's that he has not tried it.
Also bad.
Look, man.
So not only should your kid be flayed for not liking pizza, but you should be flayed for not introducing him to said pizza.
I have tried many times.
I even tried.
Apparently not well enough.
So
have you met my son?
Sad. I have, and I get it, but also
I have sired the most stubborn child in St. Louis County, Missouri.
I mean, he likes Hello Neighbor. How good could he possibly be?
He doesn't like it. He's not on Hello Neighbor anymore. It's all about Minecraft right now.
No, he used to like Hello Neighbor.
He's a true 6-year-old at this point.
Is he Fortnite dancing yet?
He begs me at least once a day to play Fortnite, and I haven't let him do that.
Well, there you go. That at least you're doing something.
Yeah.
One parenting win.
Now PUBG.
So Bobby, you're at Pizza Hut.
So Johnny,
you're playing Mortal Kombat,
and my mom gave me a handful of quarters as she usually would, so I would leave her alone for that one brief moment of the day.
Thanks, Brenda.
I walk out. There's 2 arcades at my local Pizza Hut, and there's a vending machine that has alien head stickers in it. And I would always try and balance out an alien head sticker in one game. And I remember looking over, and there's a new arcade, and they changed them out pretty frequently there, which was cool. But there was this older kid, and he looked like a badass. He had a denim jacket, collar was popped up. He had his hair.
Was he wearing Jinkos?
He didn't have Jinkos on. This is 91, Johnny. And
okay, all right.
He is playing Mortal Kombat. And so I walk over and I see that there's an opening, and I decide I'll give this a shot. It looks cool. The animation looked fun. I put in my quarter. I selected Scorpion because he was the coolest looking one. This guy had Johnny Cage. Yep. He looks down at me and starts laughing. And he annihilates me. And when he's done annihilating me, he pauses and he looks down at me and goes, "Are you watching?" And he gave me a fatality. And I started to sob. I was sobbing at Pizza Hut.
Sounds like a cool kid.
And
man, now you were relatively the same size that you are now when you were 6,
we were the same size. And so I go back to my mom. She's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "He punched my head off." And she's obviously it's a video game, whatever, you're being weird. But she didn't realize what it was. And I remembered from that moment, I thought about that nonstop. And here we are 10 versions later, and I want to know, have you given Jude the controller and uppercutted his head off in this game?
The fact that you think I would even let my child watch...
Well, he doesn't eat pizza, so I figured you don't give a shit.
It's a great point. Really good point. But you're not playing the first Mortal Kombat game. You're playing the 11th one.
I am. Yeah.
That was a really long way to get to that point, but yes. How's Mortal Kombat 11?
It was. Thank you. I also played Mortal Kombat at Pizza Hut when I was younger, and quite a bit on my Sega Genesis.
Oh, you had blood. I had sweat. I was a Super Nintendo kid.
Yeah.
I didn't have either because Mortal Kombat's lame. Street Fighter's the better game.
So, Johnny, when was the last time you owned a Mortal Kombat game? And not one that you got with like a free, like a service that you're already paying for. Like I'm talking, you gave money for a game.
MK versus DC in 2008. So 11 years ago.
What?
Why now? I have grown a stronger appreciation for games that you can play for 15 to 30 minutes and feel like you accomplished something. And I also, every time a new Mortal Kombat game comes out, I'm always tempted to buy it because of how much I love those games when I was a kid. And for one reason or another, I don't. I'll get something else. I've also never been a huge fighting game person. So this time around, I don't know what it was. I started watching trailers and stuff a few months before the game came out.
They gave a lot of like peek behind the curtains on this one. They were really pushing this one more than other ones in recent years.
Yeah, and I've played the Injustice games. I thought those were fun. But I was like, man, I could really go for some of that just over the top, completely gratuitous, just horrific violence that Mortal Kombat brings to the table. And it turns out it's pretty good. So I picked it up. I think the day it came out, so I missed out on the Shao Kahn pre-order bonus. I have to pay for him if I want Shao Kahn now, which I don't know if I will or not. But this is the first one I've played that actually had a story.
Did you play Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero? Because that had a fantastic story.
No, I did not.
That's too bad.
No, I'm thinking back. MK3 was the one that I probably cut out when I was a kid, and then the next one I played after that would have been MK versus DC.
But you did say you played Injustice, which also has a story mode. It's a different story for sure. But
is that the last, or was that the first one where they kind of switched to the view and the techniques that you see? Is that the one where you like see the ribs break and the jaws? Is that the first one that happened?
MK9, I think, was the first one with those X-ray moves.
Yeah.
Okay.
MK9 was a reboot. They didn't call it MK9; they just called it Mortal Kombat. But it was
that was the reboot
game,
one, though.
essentially.
That's essentially the framework that started what we're playing today, right?
Right. It's a trilogy. It was MK9.
Yeah, it seems like
Mortal Kombat, then MKX, which is still 10, and now 11.
Okay.
It's like a real iPhone over there. Of well, we're not gonna call it 9. We're just gonna call it Mortal Kombat. And then it's not 10.
Ed Boon
it's
did
the
it
X.
first.
It's the X. It's the X. It's the X. And then now it's like, fuck it, whatever. It's the 11. We get it.
But it also kind of looks like 2 because it's Roman.
It's I would say Resident Evil 7, and then this has some, in my opinion, from like a design standpoint, some of the coolest logos, and especially what they were able to do with the foreign language Resident Evil one. But like,
it's clever.
It's really clever.
I love the Resident Evil Biohazard stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think this is clever.
Yeah. Johnny, I haven't played it yet, but I did purchase this as well. I'm very curious.
I know,
about this. As I mentioned previously, like this has not been really conducive for me to play a lot of stuff with the puppy in the house. But I'm really excited about this game. I bought damn near I think I bought every Mortal Kombat from Super Nintendo up into, I think I bought one on the 360. I was a big fan of those. Like when it started to when it started to really get to a point of like online play and like the competition it was beyond just like having those neighbors or friends that would come over and play. When it was like you had to just really only play that game to even enjoy fighting online or to have that aspect, that's when I was just like, you know what, this isn't for me.
What I'm hearing is you played all the bad ones.
I did play the bad ones.
I skipped all those. I jumped right to the good stuff. I haven't played online. and I don't know if I will because, as I said, I am not a fighting game regular. So the bulk of my time has been spent doing story mode, which is a lot of fun. It's really dumb.
Does it play you through all the characters, or you pick a character and go through the story?
So depending on what's happening in the story, so if Kung Lao and Liu Kang are together and it's leading up to a fight, it'll let you pick one of those two. Or I just played a chapter that was Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and Scorpion has been my main guy, and so I was picking him. So it does give you a little bit of choice, but there are some fights where you have to be this particular fighter, and you can load up the start screen and look at their special moves and combos and stuff. So it's not leaving you completely in the dark. You're still probably using a character that's a little unfamiliar.
It's not leaving the noob Saibot. I get it. No bigs.
But
I just fought Noob Saibot.
But it's not like an arcade mode. The game also has an arcade mode for each individual character, but the story mode is we are having one big story and you are characters throughout that story.
Yeah,
and those
different acts, and then you're following. Yep, and it's a lot of fun.
Is the story?
Go ahead, Chase.
Is the story weird to you because this is the third game of a rebooted trilogy and you didn't play 9 or 10, so you aren't aware of those story beats? Or does it not matter because this is all time travel and bullshit?
He went down a deep rabbit hole and watched a lot of YouTube videos on Mortal Kombat.
So I have absorbed a lot of this through osmosis, through some of the gaming media that I follow. That they're big Mortal Kombat fans, and then I also, as Bobby said, I watched like a 20-minute video that broke down the MK timeline, and so it's all time travel bullshit.
Sure.
It's a big dumb action movie. And it's a lot of fun. Like, I really think you should check it out, Bobby, because
I got a few things I got on the burner right now. I'm trying to get some stuff captured with.
I've had some genuine laugh out loud moments.
Let me ask you this:
how ridiculous.
One of the coolest things I thought about Mortal Kombat was how it moved you to the next fight in the arcade mode. You start at the bottom of this mountain or the bottom of this roster, and you moved your character up. You can see who was coming. Is that present in the arcade mode that Chase mentioned?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So there's the classic arcade mode where there's however many fighters, and then that unlocks
the tower.
No, you unlock when you beat it through each character, it unlocks some specific thing for them. And then there's the Towers of Time, where every so many hours they change out and give you different rewards, and there's different modifiers. There's items that you collect that you can use in the middle of the fight to help make it easier. So there's a lot going on, but it doesn't take very long to get a feel for it. And there's also the Crypt, which is can't remember who it belongs to, but anyway, you have a character that you're walking around with. There's some light puzzle solving, and there are these chests that you open up using the combat coins and the hearts that you get for performing fatalities, and also you can earn them through other means. So the coins, the more coins it takes to open a chest, the rarer the loot. The hearts have even rarer stuff because they're harder to come by. And that's really cool. And then also the training mode is fantastic. So if you're like me, you haven't played a game like this in quite some time, it goes through the very basics, from blocking, jumping, canceling attacks. And it explains it in a way that's very easy to digest. You can play back through it again if you want. And then it goes into advanced techniques. And then it also has character-specific tutorials. So if there's a character that you haven't tried yet that you'd like to, you can go in and they give you a breakdown of like, hey, this is this move, this is this move. And it really feels welcoming to new players.
So I have two questions. First question, does this guy show up? This Toasties?
Yeah, he does.
Toastie's back. Okay, I'm in. You mentioned the chest. and I want to talk about that. I want you to unpack that with me. So, on one hand, I'm hearing a lot of positive reinforcement about this game. On the other, I heard an astronomical. This game would require users to spend between $6,000 and $8,000 to unlock everything within it. Is there validity to this?
And Ed Boon, the creative director, came out and said that this number is total bullshit. It doesn't. So, I mean,
but
a lot of it.
But it's also like total bullshit from the very beginning, because it's it's not like they're locking stuff down behind paywalls. There's stuff you can earn just by playing the game and unlocking it. But the problem doesn't seem to be that there's too many cosmetics to buy. It's not like a Dead or Alive game, which is like, there are so many costumes that you can buy and it's all going to cost you thousands of dollars. Like, that's ridiculous. There's a lot of stuff here, but it sounds like it's more in the way they mete it out to you. In that, like you're talking about with the tower, there's like a certain group of items that are there for a limited time, and then those items go away and a new set of items comes up. So
and you have to have a certain set of gear to even get to the tower, right? You have to be at a certain progression point?
You play through certain towers to unlock new ones, but there's like several different islands that you can choose from. It's kind of hard to explain without you like having seen it.
So do you feel like it's a non-issue then, some of these claims that are being made? Chase, it sounds like you feel like it might be.
It has been to me.
Yeah.
I haven't felt pressured or anything to spend extra money to get the gear that I want, but I'm also not as invested in this series as a lot of other people that are coming to it. But it also sounds like this isn't necessarily anything new to Mortal Kombat.
Right.
There was
it's
a lot
kind of a
this
non-issue to me.
Yeah, and I'm not really saying it's a non-issue, because I get that people are pissed about it, but I have not heard people being pissed about the real world money spend part of it. I hear people being pissed about, wow, you have all this stuff locked down in so many different ways that even if I had the money to spend on it, if I want to buy like a really cool costume for Scorpion, I can spend the money to have the currency in the game, but I still have to wait for that Scorpion skin to show up in a place where I can buy it.
Or hope I get it in a chest.
Or hope I get it in a chest. Or hope
it
shows
so
up
it's like the Overwatch thing.
And that's what's kind of that's what seems to be bumming people out. But also, that's nothing new either. That's similar to what Smash is doing with the spirits. That's similar to the thing you mentioned. It's kind of what games are right now. I get that people want to have their cosmetics for fighting games, and maybe Mortal Kombat leans a little bit more into that than something like Smash does. Like your spirits don't usually really matter, except for single player stuff. But it's not a big deal to me. But I get where people are coming from.
I can understand people's frustrations, but I've still unlocked some cool costumes and stuff for the fighters that I use. And like so far, this is probably my second favorite game I played.
I was going to ask if it was going to be on your Game of the Year list.
For sure. Yeah, I like when I'm not playing this game, I wish I was at home playing this game, because I'm just having such a good time learning. Like it's always fun to me to refamiliarize myself or become acquainted with a completely different system of like play than what I'm used to. It's very similar to what I went through, and this is completely unrelated, but FIFA. Whenever I first got into FIFA and I was god awful, it's very satisfying to figure out this is the best way to play, and oh look, I finally won. So I don't know if I'll ever feel confident enough to play anyone online that's not one of my friends. But I've been able to do some cool shit with some of the players, and that's pretty satisfying.
Chase, this game goes on sale $30 this year. Do you pick it up? No.
Chase and I talked. He doesn't like Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
It's not my thing. I find the animations to be pretty stilted. Like if somebody jumps in the air and you just do like a jab or something, they like weirdly stay in the air in a weird way that looks dumb. You knock down a character, but they have to get back up for their fatality, so they are knocked down and then they get back up and then they're dizzy, and
It's like a wrestler.
It's just it's just immersion breaking to me in a way that is really lame, and I find a lot of that game to be pretty lame in general. I totally respect it. It sounds like mechanically it has a lot of really cool stuff in it. And even if it looks stilted when I'm watching it, hearing people talk about how the combos kind of flow really well, like all that stuff sounds cool. I just have never found Mortal Kombat to be that exciting. I probably played the most 2 in different arcades going around, and thought there's something cool. Like I liked Reptile. Reptile seemed cool, but I was never looking up fatality moves or doing stuff. I just sometimes
I love the fatalities.
It would be cool to sometimes uppercut a dude and then he'd fall down and into some spikes.
Yeah,
but, yeah, it's never
nice.
I am impressed though about the tutorial stuff. I think that, going back to what you said, Johnny, that's the most interesting part to me. It's nothing particularly new for fighting games. Like Dead or Alive has a pretty good tutorial. Tekken has a pretty good tutorial in terms of, here are individual characters. Here's some things you can do with them to learn their movesets. And other games have done little things where they show flashes of here's the timing on when you're supposed to hit these buttons.
It does that, yeah. I mean, it breaks down frames.
Yeah, but exactly. What's really impressive here is that I think they've put them all in one nice package, and then they've also gone the extra step by explaining what a lot of these advanced techniques and a lot of what these advanced terminology pieces are. Like they're talking about blocks and perfect blocks and spacing and zoning stuff, and all of that is stuff that you would want to know if you're trying to get really serious about fighting games. And this game's a great way of kind of leaning into some of that, even if I don't find the actual combat to be all that interesting to me.
Fair.
That's cool.
Cool. Johnny, is there any closing thoughts on Mortal Kombat 11? Sounds like this is a recommend pickup.
It's
right.
If you've ever enjoyed the series in the past, if you're looking for a fighting game that has gratuitous, sometimes disgusting violence, then pick this one up.
There's some gruesome ones for sure.
It's really bad. Johnny Cage is maybe my favorite.
I saw something about that, and I didn't want to spoil too much, but I did see something.
Shao Kahn's is also very good.
No, I haven't seen that one.
And they all have multiple ones, plus brutalities, and there's plenty of ways. No friendships.
I pulled off my first brutality last night. It felt really fucking good.
Are there babalities?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think there are animalities either.
And have they? I'm sure they will, because I feel like as a DLC goes, they're pretty good about putting out more content, like bringing back some of the other characters, and they even brought in some horror characters. I think it wasn't like Michael Myers or Leatherface, a playable character.
Jason.
Yeah, the alien has been one in there.
I think that they leaked that the T-1000 is going to be a character in this one.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Freddy Krueger's been in there.
Cool.
They've done some weird kind of crossovery stuff. But yeah, Ed Boon's come out and said, yeah, totally, we're making DLC. There'll be new costumes. There'll be new characters.
Cool.
Yeah.
Chase.
Yeah.
A few years ago, when we were just babies, you introduced me into the SteamWorld.
Yes.
And I was blown away. And I've played both SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2, and I've got a very soft spot in my heart for those games, and I thank you so much for showing them to me. And not that long ago, a trailer came out for something new from these guys. And it's here now. Came out.
It is, yeah. It came out last week. SteamWorld Quest.
I'm so excited about this game. You and I are going to...
I really want to pick it up.
You and I are going to do a Let's Play. We were supposed to do it this past Sunday, but I really dropped the ball there and had some life shit come up. But I hope that we can reschedule soon, because I would like for you to walk me through this game, as you are kind of the person that's introduced me to this world to begin with.
Yeah,
for sure.
Bobby dropped the ball, and Obi fetched the ball.
Obi did fetch the ball over and over and over and over again. Chase, why don't you? So is this the only thing that you've been playing? I know that maybe.
I wouldn't say the only thing I've been playing. Maybe the only thing worth talking about. I've also been playing. We definitely don't need to talk about, but I've also been playing Super Robot Wars T, which is the sequel to Super Robot Wars X, which I talked about on this show last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last year.
Johnny, go ahead and make a note of that. That way, please, we have that on record.
But yeah, like the only thing worth really talking about is that it's on Switch now. Like this one came for Switch. It's still import only if you play in the States. But PlayAsia has there are English subtitled Chinese versions of this game that PlayAsia or other places that import games can sell you and ship to you. So that's how they get around all the license stuff, because these games won't ever get localized because they just have so many different animes they're pulling from that to license it out all in Japan and then to get those licenses again to come out in America would be a nightmare. But yeah, it's exactly the same game with some different. Like it is that game again, and I like that game, so I'm cool with it. The only real interesting thing, I guess, is that Cowboy Bebop is in that game for the first.
Oh, neat.
If you care about one of the best animes ever, and you want to see one, technically 3 ships, but so far I think Spike is the only guy who actually has a mech that you can pilot in that game. It's still cool. It's really cool to see him and to hear that music play and to have all that shit happen. But it's totally just Super Robot all over again, and I like that. But your mileage may vary. So
Chase, to set you up here. It looks like SteamWorld Quest came out on April 25th. It's from Image and Form, and it's currently available only on the Nintendo Switch, it looks like. And and $24.99, and it can be yours.
And I think it's totally worth it. I think that's a game that people should be picking up. So Image and Form, they started on the DSiWare with SteamWorld Tower Defense. Game I haven't played. It's the only SteamWorld game that I haven't played. But then they've continued to build from there. Dig on the 3DS is the one that kind of started it all for a lot of people. And they are kind of like a Pixar style studio now of they are trying new things every time, with the exception of SteamWorld Dig 2 that came out at the beginning of the Switch. And I think that was really just for them to hey, let's do something familiar on this new system.
Sure.
But also do something, like we had tons of scrapped ideas and we wanted to try something with those. And I liked
scrapped ideas.
Yeah, I know that.
Nice.
I heard it.
Nice.
I heard it as soon as I said it.
Nice.
And Dig 2 is great. I think that the Dig games are very good, but they are also my least favorite SteamWorld games. I'm a big fan of Heist, which is the strategy shootery game that came out on basically everything, 3DS and Vita and Switch, and it's pretty much.
I know that Image and Form's listening. Hopefully, they'll make a sequel. Hearing us talk about it now.
It would be really cool if they made a sequel. But they decided to make a new game, and that's SteamWorld Quest, and it is a card game technically, and that's going to turn some people off just hearing card game. But I don't think it should, because it's a really accessible card game. It's really easy to get into. It's not super complex at all, but there's a lot of customization to it that allows you to really play the way you want to play. So to back up just a bit, it's set up kind of like the Princess Bride. I think so. Like that's where it's like modern day. This kid,
grandpa telling his
kid robot wants to hear a story from his grandfather robot, however that works, and it's actually the character. I think it's the character from SteamWorld Heist, like the fisherman dude, and he's like, okay, I'll tell you another pirate story about space, and the kid's like, no, I want to hear about dragons or shit. Like, oh, okay, well then we have to go way back into the age of heroes or whatever, and that brings this back to this kind of medieval with steam-powered robots setting.
That's so cool.
It's weird. It's fine. Honestly, I find the story to be pretty not great. I mean, it's the same not great that those games have always traded in. Like they are pun filled, they are silly, and honestly, they're whatever. But they get you to the good gameplay stuff, and that's the stuff that I really like. I'm also honestly, if I'm gonna start out a little negative, I don't like the art style. I think it looks. I don't like the big character designs. I think the animation looks a little bit weird. I really don't like the idle animations because they're so over the top. I mean, not it's not like they're doing crazy stuff with their arms or anything, but they just like there's so much movement in the idle animations, and they're just heaving back and forth, and it's the enemies too, and it's just like this is stupid. It doesn't need to be this pronounced. It's ridiculous.
It looks like it's a lot cleaner. I don't know if that's the word I want to use. It's softer. It looks like as far as art goes, maybe.
Yeah, and it's also just bigger. Like the sprites, not sprites, sorry, but the actual characters, the assets themselves are just bigger on the screen than you get with something like
even in handheld
Dig or yeah, totally. Like they're in terms of ratio from character size on the screen, they're just way bigger. Okay. And that's because this game's a card game, and it's not. You don't have to have a big world to bounce around in or a grid to move your characters on. So they can just have these big characters. I don't particularly like the way it looks, but I really love the way it plays, and that's the important thing. So the deal is you get 3 party members. Like it kind of sets it up like an RPG, where, and honestly, it is an RPG. You'll get these characters that form up your party, and they can grow and level up and get equipment on them. So you can, like the first, I think she's female. Her name's Armilly. She's kind of like a knight character, and she has a sword and armor and all that stuff. Don't know why a robot needs armor, but that's the game we're playing. And those characters will level up, and she'll get more health, and she'll get more attack power and strength, and you can upgrade her equipment. She starts with a sword, and you can give her a different sword that has some different abilities to it that gives you more strength as it goes up. And all that stuff sounds really standard JRPG fare, and then you get to a battle, and the battles go into card game mode. So these characters don't just have normal attacks or mana pools or things like that. It goes into this card thing where their abilities are all based on cards that you have in your hand. Each character has a deck of 8 cards, and you can switch out any of those 8 cards between battles and totally set up their move lists in that way. And you can have up to 3 characters in your party.
So 24 cards?
24 cards total, and you can never have more or less than 24 cards. And the cards don't get discarded and you can never use them again. They get folded back into the deck once you use them. So your cards will keep coming up during the battles.
Nice.
Okay.
And if you've played Magic, or I guess it works for Hearthstone.
I did play Magic and Hearthstone.
But one of the things, like those games have large decks. Like Magic, your deck has to be at least 60 cards. And you can go over 60 cards, and a lot of people do, but some people don't want to go over 60 cards because it means that the cards that you really want to make your deck work don't show up as often. The ratios are. So the way this game works is like, hey, we're limiting you to 24 cards, and it's because you're going to get these cards over and over again, and you want to make sure you can keep using these moves so you can keep building a small but workable strategy. If you just had a ton of random cards all the time, you probably wouldn't be able to build a real strategy out of it. So I do really appreciate that. There's been a lot of hard decisions of, man, this character seems really cool if I could use these cards together, but man, I also need these regular cards to use. The card game itself is pretty interesting. Again, if you go back to thinking about the way Magic works, or even Hearthstone, those games use mana systems. So in Magic, you can play 1 land card per turn, and lands can produce mana that allow you to play other cards. In Hearthstone, your mana pool goes up by 1 each turn. They've changed that been a long time since I played.
Can I ask you a quick comparison question?
Yeah.
Do you feel like this has shared DNA with Slay the Spire?
Yes and no. Yes, in that it's an RPG with card elements to it, and you are getting new cards, but this is not a roguelike. Slay the Spire, you are going on runs, and you will gain cards on that run, and when you die, all of that goes away, and you have to do it. In this, you are constantly gaining potential cards that you can use, but you're really telling a story, and it's a little bit more consistent. Like, I've been able to keep a pretty consistent strategy of how I'm going to play my deck, and that's cool. I'm actually super excited for Slay the Spire to come out on Switch because I like the idea of on the fly building a deck as I'm going through a roguelike system. Like, that sounds really cool too, and I think that's why these games can coexist, because they are both RPG card games, but they do it in very different ways.
Cool. That's what I was just curious about.
Yeah. So anyway, the basic system here is you are building up steam pressure, and then you can use that steam pressure for even more powerful moves. And it's all based on this kind of cog system that just shows the steam pressure. So that's kind of their way of showing mana. But there are so many cards that you're not playing lands in Magic that just feel kind of useless. Like, if I'm in Magic and I have a handful of lands, like, okay, I put one land card down and then I'm done for my turn. In this, there's no wasted cards. Every card does something, and does something really potentially game-changing. So, like, Millie's regular deck, she has like a regular stab, and that card actually gains you steam pressure. And so it does a little physical damage to one enemy, and you gain a pip of steam pressure. And then you can play another card of the same one, because you can play up to 4 cards of the same type, like Magic. So she can do that again. And now you're up to 2 pips. And now there are special cards, skill cards, that cost steam pressure to use. So she's got one, I think it's called Brave Buster or something like that. And it costs 2 pips. So you could play the regular physical attack, and then this Brave Buster one that does a bunch of damage and takes away your steam pressure. And you can do that all in one turn, because you can only play 3 cards a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing, once you get into the game a little bit, is that you want to actually start specializing in characters, in turns rather, for these characters, because if you can play 3 cards that are all for the same character, you'll get an extra bonus at the end of that, and that extra bonus is tied to their weapon that you've equipped them with. So for Millie, if she has all 3 together with the very first weapon that you're using, she just does like an extra attack, just at the end of her combo. And wow, hey, cool, bonus attack. But then you can change her weapon later in the game once you find a new one, and that extra attack goes away. But now she can cause an enemy to bleed, and they'll take bleed damage every turn now.
Wow.
So you can start kind of customizing, how do you want your decks to work? How can you make these extra effects happen? And you gain new party members, so you can start getting access to new decks.
How many people can you choose from right now?
At the point that I'm in, I'm about halfway through the game right now. I think I have the full party, but there might be somebody new as well. But I think I've met everyone. So I've got 5 characters, technically 6, because one character is a set of twins, but they act as one character. So I've got all these decks that I can work with, and I've found a team that kind of works for me, and it's mostly kind of a turtley deck, because I've got one guy who's just all about buffs and debuffs, and he's totally protecting my team, regenerating my health, poisoning foes, and that's pretty much all he does. He doesn't really do any direct damage. Then I've got this kind of magic girl who can do the weapon I have kind of combos with a shield that she can put up, like a magical shield. So that's really
It's
helpful
just the girl
to get her
with the
stuff.
big like witch's hat looking thing.
Yeah, her name's Koeneke.
Okay.
And so she can do a lot of different elemental damage. I've been kind of specializing her with fire damage, but she can do a lot of different elemental damage based on the cards that you put in.
Neat.
And they can combo with each other in different ways. And then the guy that I really like is kind of this fox masked Bushido samurai looking dude. And he can do some large damage in single turns if you have enough steam pressure built up.
Wow.
So a lot of my deck is built around getting large amounts of cogs, large amounts of steam pressure in a single turn, and then using his like one big sweeper move to just absolutely annihilate characters. And I can even build that up further because he has a lot of cards that help him get critical hits. So I can have him get up his critical hit chance and then do this move that does a ton of attacks in one single attack. And each one of those attacks has a chance of being a critical, and you just end up wiping out characters really quickly.
Who's the big green guy?
That's my my buff debuff guy.
Oh, cool.
I forgot his name off the top of my head. But yeah, he's kind of like a frog-looking robot.
He looks like a frog.
Yeah, he totally does, and people make jokes about it. But it's good. Like there's complexity in there. Like the way I play those three characters in my party could be entirely different from the way somebody else plays those characters. Like that big green guy, I mostly have him poisoning people and putting up shields for my guys. But somebody else could play him in a way where he does a bunch of frost damage to enemies and then also does like big giant punches that do lots of damage. Like that guy can be a big offensive threat.
Oh, cool.
If you wanted to play him that way. But I like my offensive guy is more like the samurai dude because I find a lot of stuff that he can do. But then that guy also has a bunch of moves because he can switch masks. There are cards that lets him switch masks, and each mask gives him a different different abilities. So one that I have its active ability is it will flinch an enemy, and then he will also gain like a bunch of elemental resistances when he's wearing that mask. And that mask stays on until he plays a different card that's a mask card that would switch his mask to another thing.
Neat.
So there's so many different combinations that you're getting here. You'll find new cards in treasure chests as you go around these worlds, and then you can also craft cards by finding this merchant and kind of picking and choosing how you want to building up your decks, and then you can even upgrade cards to make cards that you had at the beginning that might not be so strong. You can strengthen them up to make them more viable as you go on, so you can kind of keep your strategy going forward. And it's really cool, all the stuff they have in there. There is one more thing that I like on its face and is just a little frustrating how it works in practice. You guys are Paper Mario fans, yeah?
Yeah.
You played Paper
Love
Mario
Paper
games
Mario.
before?
I've never played a Paper Mario game.
But you're familiar with it. You at least know what a preemptive strike is. Like, you know that like you're in the world, you see an enemy, you can
you get the jump on somebody.
You get the jump on it. You can do an attack, a free attack, or they start with some damage. This game has that. I love that system. It's fantastic. The way they executed here, the hitboxes are terrible.
Oh no.
So I feel like I'm just whiffing all the time, and then a character bumps into me, and now we're in a match. And it's so frustrating because it feels like something that I should be able to get done every single time. Like if I'm playing, when I was playing Dragon Quest XI, every single time, not a problem. I can do the preemptive strike, totally cool. And in here, I've been whiffing nonstop, and I do not understand where those hitboxes, how they work or what's going on. It's not a big deal because it does such a minuscule amount of damage to the enemy, and there's no
still,
and the enemy doesn't.
It's satisfying to get that.
Yeah, and the enemy doesn't do preemptive strikes to you, so there's no real downside to missing. But it's a system where I feel like I should be able to get it done every time.
Right.
It pisses me off that it just doesn't quite work. It's a super cool game. It works great on Switch. I've played it both handheld and on the TV. It runs super smoothly. The only problem that I've really had with performance at the very beginning, and they might have already put a patch out to fix this, or maybe it was just me or something. I was playing in handheld mode, and the very beginning cutscene was super choppy, and the audio was out of sync.
Oh, that's weird.
And like it just kind of fucked up, and it was very weird. But then it's been completely smooth sailing after that. So I don't know if it was just that thing, that one part for everyone, or maybe it was just me. But that was a little odd. But it hasn't been a problem.
Yes, man. So is this
cool.
a game that you think you'll talk about come December?
I would think so. I like this is kind of my jam. I like card games. I like some strategy stuff. I like RPGs, and this puts all that together.
It's a chase-ass video game.
It is, and you know, my problems with the art style and the story aside, there's a lot to really like here, and it's some of the stuff, the way the combos work, the way the enemies start to gain resistances to some of my strategies, and now I have to come up with new strategies. All that stuff is pretty darn cool, and I'm just having a real blast playing it. Again, I'm halfway through. I think it's got 19 or 20 chapters, and I'm on like chapter 11 or 12.
Awesome.
But there's something really cool, and it seems to keep building. They keep adding a mechanic here or there, whether it's in the form of a new character or just a new thing that shows up, and you're like, oh, I can incorporate that into my deck. But it shows up at such a perfect pace that you'll just it's still accessible, where they will not overwhelm you with stuff like a game like Super Robot Wars. Oh, there's so many things that you can do.
Here you go.
Exactly. This game is more, hey, here's the thing. You can add it to your strategies, get used to it. You can also go back to old chapters because there are hidden treasure chests that are pretty darn well hidden. And they will tell you at the end of a chapter, hey, you got 76% of the chests. Maybe you want to go back in and play it again. So you can go back in, kind of grind. You don't get that much experience from going back to old stuff. But when you do go back, you can find the chests that have extra items in there.
Nice, man.
It's a lot of fun. I think from as far as card games go, this one is easy to pick up and play and pretty fun with all the combos. I think you both might enjoy this game.
Yeah, I think I feel very safe. Like I have it downloaded, ready to go.
Yeah.
I've intentionally waited for you, and I'm doing pretty good right now. I'm not playing it, but after listening to you, I might fire it up and see it. But I really want to do that Let's Play with you where we go through it, and I think that'd be a lot of fun.
For sure. I think Heist is still probably my favorite SteamWorld game, but this one is up there and is probably second.
Nice.
Very
awesome,
cool.
Man. Well, I want to talk to you guys about another Switch game, because the Switch is a darling console that we all love on this show. I want to talk to you all about Katana ZERO. This is a game that was put out by ASCII Soft, published by Devolver Digital. It is currently available for $14.99 on the eShop, and I think that also gets you like 75 coins on there if you get the purchase. It's a pretty short experience. 75 cents. Game takes 6 to 7 hours to complete. I am probably 3/4 of the way through the game currently, just to let you guys know where I'm at, because I know both of you are playing this game, so I want to be very cautious about what I say and don't say. Chase, I know you've played a little bit of it. Johnny, I think you've played quite a bit of it.
No, not quite a bit.
Okay.
Maybe like 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay. Well, then for the sake of this conversation,
I'm probably around the same length. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that the cool thing about that is that we have a pretty good consensus then on like core mechanics, what you're getting into. Like you kind of understand how the game's going to play out. So I won't get into too much of the story stuff because from what I'm hearing and seeing, like there's a lot of twists and turns, and I'd hate to unravel any of those.
I would say I think the story is interesting.
Yeah.
I think what they're doing with it, like we've said Devolver. I know we're going to bring it up during the gameplay portion discussion about this, but I think in a lot of ways, not just mechanically, but also thematically, this game is a really interesting mix of Mark of the Ninja and Hotline
Miami.
And, and I think this, from a story perspective, some of the Hotline Miami, hey, things aren't quite what you think they are. There's more to things that are going on here. It's definitely a different tone than Hotline Miami, but it gives me some of those vibes, and it has that Devolver feel to it.
So let's unpack some of that style, because that's something that I think this game has in spades. You mentioned Hotline Miami, which again, like, I think that's a crown jewel when it comes to style in games and what you can come to expect. This is a neo-noir, kind of like 80s inspired, heavily inspired. It's got some VHS elements, which it's got one of the coolest pause menus I've seen in a while, which I really, really dig. One of my favorite things this game does, and it's a very small thing, but it just is so cool, is as you enter into a level or a place, it starts a soundtrack, and it tells you you're now listening to in the bottom right-hand corner. I just think that is such a really rad.
It's a nice touch.
He hops in his headphones too.
Yep.
Like they are trying to say, hey, this is music that's actually happening.
This is music to kill.
This is what you're listening to while you mercilessly butcher these people.
That soundtrack, it bangs. It's so good. It's on Bandcamp. I think it might be on other streaming platforms, but I had the opportunity to do some office work last week, and I just put that on and really enjoyed it. Once upon a time, we did these episodes on the show about the sound of video game music, and this would definitely be something I would reference on an episode of that. It's got a great color palette, lots of purples, teals, yellows. The pixel animation in this is just really, really good. Some of the idle animations I think is great.
It has a good sense of humor about it. I feel.
It does. It doesn't quite break the fourth wall at time, but it definitely dances around that. I really appreciate being able to eavesdrop on conversations, and if you interrupt those conversations, like what it does to the text bubbles that are there. Like, I think that is such a cool little, very, very nice detail on it. One thing that, like, I've noticed is like everything is just packaged in a way that's very precise. Like, it seems like everything you're seeing, and even things that you can't interact with, have a place and a purpose to really tell the story, which I think is great. I love the apartment, like that whole idea of going back to your apartment, which you guys have done that, right?
Mm-hmm. Couple times.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome, and how that transitions into you talking to your employer and then going to the file for your mission. I think is just such a really cool touch. Like, the game has really great pacing, especially for a game that I don't want to say it's punitive by any means, but like, you have to be excellent in the way that you have to be excellent in Super Hot to like really execute what you're doing. And so, like, you do some of these things over and over again, and then I love the replay value of like being able to play back what you did and slow that down and look at it. It's just so much fun to interact with. It's a tinker. Like, I like to tinker with this game quite a bit.
And it's super snappy too. Like,
yes.
we talk about games like Hotline Miami. We talk. It's also pretty similar to like a Super Meat Boy or like a Bit Trip Runner.
I was just thinking Super Meat Boy, yeah.
Because it's all about, like, if you fail, it's an immediate, hey, you go right back and you're going to try this again. And what I love is that
it's no big deal if you fuck up.
And they frame that in the story as like his, like this samurai guy, it's his vision of how he's going to take on this challenge. So he's mentally going through, oh, if I did this, and that's what you're playing. You're like, oh, I'm trying this. Nope, that would fuck up. I can't do that. Let's try a new thing. Yeah, that'll work. And then at the end, it plays through your one perfect run that finishes the actual level. And it just goes, yep, this is how it actually happened, because that's the one where he figured it out.
It's so good. It's so good. I love that feature. I love the so you use that drug Chronos. That's what you get in the game. That's what your payment is to do these missions. And the ability to slow time, I think, is really rad. And how they implement that, it's done very, very well. Specifically, like some of the satisfaction of like slowing things down, rolling, knocking a bullet back towards somebody. It's just great. Like, there's some really cool stuff that goes into it. I want to spend some time touching on a feature that I think would probably get lost in the weeds otherwise on a game that's so stylized and so snappy, but they've brought that snap over to the dialogue, and I think the dialogue works really well in this game. And this is a game that I don't think this is going to spoil anything, but it is a game that contains multiple endings based off of dialogue choices. The one, since you guys have definitely done it, we're going to talk a little bit about one of the first missions where you walk in and you encounter a receptionist. There's multiple ways on how to get through that and how it plays out on the back end, which I think is really awesome. But spamming, like, is it, you have an option as soon as dialogue starts, you can just shut it off, like hang up on them on their phone, tell them to be quiet, like all those things, and that does create this branch in the game that you can play through, which I think is interesting. And the game's length, as where it's at, really does promote how to do that and what to play through. So, what are your thoughts on the dialogue, guys? Like how they've done that?
I think it's interesting. Like it has kind of like a Mass Effect kind of like the way they do their Renegade and the other one, Paragon options, where hey, you can trigger this thing right now. You have a chance. You have a chance. You have a chance. Okay, now it's gone. Right. And they do time it out in a similar way to like an Alpha Protocol or like a Telltale game where you can. I don't think, unlike Telltale, I don't think if you don't pick an option at all, he's just silent. I think they just pick the first option for you if you spend the full time. But yeah, you get a limited amount of time to make an answer, but then you get that very limited amount of time to do the quick shutoff that you're talking about. Yeah. And it is interesting that those things have consequences. That in that first mission that you're talking about, it's a pretty immediate consequence. Yep. In that it shows up, it starts at the beginning of the level, and then it affects the way the level ends. But then, yeah, like you're saying, other options in the story will lead you to different endings. So they kind of try to tell you, hey, by the way, your actions have weight. And I think they show that in a pretty interesting way near the beginning. Totally. I like it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think that this is a game that you could easily dismiss the story, or like that could have been not the focus of it, considering like it does have those over and over repetitive, hyper violent situations, and they did so much with the rest of the style. But I'm really excited where it goes. I do believe that the intention, and it sounds like it'll happen with the success of this game, is to do a trilogy that tells the story of what's going on here. So Katana ZERO.
Looking forward to Katana 1.
Katana 1. And then Katana 2. And we'll just call it a day.
I think the only thing that really bums me out about that game, and maybe it shows up later as an ability you gain, but I don't think so. There's no air dodge. So there's times where there are these lasers, like these laser fields that you're trying to get through, and the dodge only works when you're on the ground, and I don't play it like that. Like I want to be able to like air dash and do crazy stuff, and the very first time that they start teaching you about the dodge mechanic, they are also teaching you about wall jumps, and you're supposed to dash on the ground and then jump, and then do your wall jumps through this laser field. And the ones when you're wall jumping are automatic, but you have to do that first one on the ground. And I just couldn't get the muscle memory to stop.
I know exactly what point you're talking about.
I need to jump to do my wall jump, but I also want to jump and air dodge to get through this, and I just keep dying, and I know that's not how I'm supposed to do it, but fuck, I want an air dodge.
Was that the point of the level where like you literally do that and you go up and you just like immediately exit?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I got tripped up on that for the same reason. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So did I. Yeah.
And it felt very much like Explosion Man, because it gave me some real nostalgia vibes on that. But I had to do that so many times. Not that it was hard, just that I could not get my brain to stop wanting to jump and then dodge through that laser.
So with this game, if you play one level with combat, like you pretty much get a tone for what you're in for the rest of the game. Some things to like point out: it is instant death, as we've mentioned. You can go back immediately and replay. Is what Chase was saying. You're simply told that won't work. You're going through it in your head again. I get that satisfaction of Super Hot when I do that. It reminds me so much of framing up those levels and like just feeling such like a badass and being able to watch it. It's great. The story is, I think, the bright point here. That the story is really, really rich considering all things that's going on. And I got to tip my hat to them and say they did a great job with this. Much like Chase's recommendation of SteamWorld Quest at that $25 point, I think what you get here is a really special experience, especially being unique to the Nintendo Switch. It sounds like Devolver is really finding a sweet spot with that console, and it seems to really complement the game style that they're into, which I'm not mad about at all. So you can download this. It came out on April 18th of this year. I recommend it. It will absolutely make my Game of the Year list at this point.
Totally. And Mark of the Ninja is on Switch. Hotline Miami is not on Switch.
Which I'm a little shocked by.
Should be.
I would think that it has to come eventually, right? But maybe that the person behind that's just working on other stuff. There is another game that's coming out pretty soon, or soonish, for Switch, that is very similar to this game. It gives me a lot of the same vibes. Called My Friend Pedro.
Hell yeah!
And holy shit, I think that game might be even better than Katana Zero.
I know.
That looks.
Why does
rad.
that sound familiar?
This one that has like the frying pan.
It's like this dude who's just shooting around. It's a side-scrolling level. He's got guns instead of a sword, but it's also like a bunch of slow motion, a bunch of pretty killing of dudes through.
It looks phenomenal. It was I think it was debuted at E3 last year. I'm pretty sure.
It could be. I think it might have been on some Nintendo Directs too.
Yep. But I think that is this year, right? That's a few months out.
Yes,
maybe?
it's absolutely coming this year. I don't know if there's a specific date for it, but yes,
it looks so good.
It looks so good.
Katana Zero gets 2 thumbs up from me. So speaking of the Switch, we're gonna keep this train rolling. We talked about doing some news in the back end, and I wanted to reference a Kotaku article. This one was written by, where's he at? Chris Kohler. Yeah. And he was discussing some points about the Nintendo 3DS. And I think since the Switch was announced, we can go back 2 years on this show and show episodes leading up to March and just a few after March when we were in that bubble of like the zeitgeist around Nintendo Switch. We were all curious about the fate of Nintendo's other handheld, the 3DS, now 2DS. And this article was published on Friday, this past Friday. So Chris goes on to say, 1 year ago today, Nintendo held a briefing for investors at which it said it would continue the 3DS business and that it was preparing new software for release in 2019 and beyond. Just prior to this meeting, Nintendo had announced a large batch of new 3DS games like Luigi's Mansion and WarioWare Gold, and the company pointed to this release schedule as proof that Nintendo still planned to support the handheld. Fast forward a year later, Nintendo's holding the same version of the briefing, and the difference was night and day. No announcement beforehand of new games for the handheld platform, no mention of the 3DS business in the briefing. There are currently 0 first-party games on schedule for 3DS and just a tiny handful of upcoming third-party retail games. Just 1 in the US, for example, and 2 in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm surprised, but it's also impressive that they were putting out new games so far, like new Nintendo games, so far into the life cycle of the Switch, especially given how successful it was. So, I mean, it seems like they'll just quietly let this continue to be sold, and it's not like it doesn't have a vast library of fantastic games that aren't available anywhere else.
Yeah,
I mean, this isn't a surprise because they've done this before.
Yep.
This was absolutely what the DS was. It was Nintendo brought it out and said, third pillar. Like, we have Game Boy Advance, we've got GameCube, I think.
GameCube.
Now we've got DS, and we're gonna support these 3 platforms. And honestly, they probably were planning on that from the start. And then the DS blew up and became huge. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a reason to have a Game Boy Advance anymore, especially because there was a GBA slot on the DS. So maybe they had an idea that it wasn't going to happen, and they just were hedging. But that's also what happened here. Like they knew the Switch was a risk. The Wii U did not perform very well for them. The Switch, even though it had a lot more promise than the Wii U in terms of the capabilities it had, they wanted to hedge their bets. They wanted to say, hey, we still have the 3DS. If shit hits the fan, if this Switch thing doesn't work, like we'll put the next Pokemon on that. Don't worry about it. And
sure.
And so you have to say that. You don't want to just dump all your 3DS stuff, start the Switch, and then hope for the best. So you've got to say.
By the way, guys, this platform is dead.
Right, totally. Like they're not Sony.
I mean, yeah, even Sony, like until relatively recently, like they still talked about the Vita. They cared about it.
Do you guys think that Pokemon was the straw here?
No, I think Pokemon was the. I think something happened, and then Pokemon was the result of that. And the something happening was the Switch became fucking awesome. People are so hot for the Switch that like the games are selling for it amazingly. People want to be on this system like no other Nintendo platform ever before. And Nintendo's realizing it and going, well, we have to shift things because now we're a Switch company and not a 3DS and Switch company. We are a Switch company. And
I mean, it's getting more third-party support than any console probably since the Super Nintendo.
Even those games, like there's been games that have been on the 3DS that launch on the Switch at like quite the markup because of that too.
I mean, not Mortal Kombat came out on the Switch.
That's wild. That's wild to me.
Would you have ever thought, like, if the Wii U was out, like, they would have never put Mortal Kombat out on the Wii U. So it's just a testament to how successful this new platform of theirs is. And, you know, this is just what happens with anything. You know, the new version of the thing comes out, or they iterate and make a completely different thing than what they made before, and whatever precedes it goes away eventually.
Yeah, I think it's safe. It's a safe move.
They accidentally made something incredibly popular, and they had to completely shift their plans because of it. If the Switch was doing regular business, or if it was doing Wii U business, absolutely, I think we would see more of these resources
probably some new titles
showing up on 3DS. I bet if they made that new Link's Awakening, it probably would have been a 3DS game instead of a Switch game. Like that some of those things make more sense. But with Switch blowing up like this, it just wasn't surprising to me because I heard all that third pillar shit. I went through all that, and now I'm like, yeah, of course. Like the Switch is going to be great because we all had faith in it as soon as we heard about it, and I just kind of knew the 3DS was done for. And it's sad because I love my 3DS. Like Johnny said, it's got this fantastic lineup of games, this library that it's built over the years, and it's just fucking incredible, the amount of content that's on there. But we even got pissed about these last few 3DS games not coming to Switch. You had Metroid, the Metroid game, the Samus Returns one. Like we don't want that on 3DS. You should have put that on Switch instead. WarioWare Gold. Like, man, you should have put that on Switch. It would have been so much better on Switch.
Or simultaneous,
totally.
So
I think this is also a chance. Like this was known quantity, right? We knew this was coming. We didn't know when exactly, but one thing that we are starting to hear about, and it has been floating around the news for some time, is that Nintendo has a couple plans. Which again, I'm not surprised by this, but they're going to be releasing a more mobile variation of the Switch at a lower cost, a lower end Switch, and apparently. In the pipeline as well is a more higher end revision of the current Switch. So
the Switch XS Max,
the Switch XS Max Pro XL, the new Switch. What are your thoughts on a portable, more portable Nintendo Switch, a lower cost, more portable one?
I don't know. I mean. I'm sure that it would sell, probably, but Nintendo's also done stuff like this before that hasn't sold and is quickly, shown out the door. I mean, I think it's probably a good one for kids.
Yeah,
like
it's not a Switch for Switch owners. Like, if you own a Switch right now,
you don't want that one.
You don't need it. I want it because I'm ridiculous and I just want. But yeah, like that is a Switch that's supposed to be an entry level version. Like Johnny mentioned, if it takes away the breaking off the Joy-Cons thing and it just acts more like
a unibody,
all in one system.
Yeah.
Then that makes sense to give it to a kid who gets to upgrade from a 3DS or a 2DS and
or they don't have their own TV in the room.
Exactly.
Sure. Maybe a lower quality display, unibody frame, still ability to dock to a TV.
It's already 720p.
Does it dock to a TV? Does it have to? I mean, it doesn't need to be.
How would you? Yeah, you'd have to buy a controller to pair to it once it's docked.
I think the only thing. I don't think you could do the other thing. Like you could make a handheld only version of the Switch.
You can't make
a TV only because they've done things with touchscreen stuff. Like if that's the way Mario Maker 2 is going to work, and it sounds like it is, where the actual creation stuff happens with the touchscreen, or at least that's an option with the stylus that they're talking about. Like you're gonna want to have.
I want
touch.
that stylus.
There are a couple games that are touch only. I think some very early ones that were trying to just be like mobile ports when the Switch first came over. There are some games out there that require touch, which means they can only be played in handheld mode.
Right.
So you can't make the TV only one, but I think you can absolutely do the handheld one. You get in some kids, you get some people who are like, I don't want to spend that much money on a Switch. I don't really need something that hooks up to my TV. I just want to play some of these cool new Nintendo games. That's for them. And then, this Switch Pro, this new Switch, this hardcore version, that I think is more tuned to us. And I don't know exactly what that means. It's
like 1080p display, and when it's handheld, is it a bigger screen, better battery life? One would hope.
Well, I think that the battery life on that smaller one would have to be better. Without having to charge it, you take the Joy-Con stuff out of it.
Yeah.
Do they keep the HD rumble in the handheld only?
I don't know. You probably don't need it.
Yeah.
Would you see them getting rid of vibration altogether to preserve battery?
Maybe.
I don't think you would, but you might.
So. Right now, what's the price point of the Switch? Like today, if you're going to buy a Switch, is it
$299?
So, do you think they come out and they say $199?
$179 to $199, maybe.
And
I think that $170 to $200 is the sweet spot for that, where it's it's less cost. There's a big enough gap in between those two that. There's probably some parents that are still unwilling to spend $300 on this console.
We should also mention, though, that this is still mostly rumor.
Right. Nothing has been confirmed.
We got tinfoil hats and crystal balls right now.
Yeah, it's been reported that these things are happening. It sounds like some deals are in place in terms of specs that people have heard, that some of these things were extrapolating on. Like there was some source to it, but the official statement from Nintendo is that they're not going to be talking about either of these revisions, if they're even going to do revisions at all, at E3 this year. So they're still a ways out if they're coming at all. And I mean that's something to consider. But it is fun to think about because the Switch is really cool. We're all enjoying it, and I think that this has been Nintendo's plan. They've done that with at least every handheld console. They've done revisions on it, and the Switch is technically still a handheld system for them, even though it's also a console system for them. And they've done console revisions as well. There's been top-loading NESs, there's been SNES revisions, there's been basically all of them.
I gotta say, for me, like looking at the three big players, talking about like announcements and all that stuff, like Nintendo has really found a sweet spot on its porting of indie developers and its couch co-op ability and its portability. I think they really delivered on an idea that was great. So they've been really it's just a gift that keeps on giving this generation, and they have all my admiration. I look at Microsoft and what their about face they did with their platform and how they turned it around this generation, and what they're doing with services and what they're doing with some of their hardware for accessibility, and what their future in the cloud looks like, I think is phenomenal. And I look at Sony, and I think outside of some of their first party titles, they're the ones right now that need to come out with something to really stand up to these two. That's a little bit more than just a very powerful box. And I think that they can get there for sure. They've got the foundation for these services and these ideas. I'd just like to see them do something with that.
At the same time, though, I think they have positioned themselves pretty strongly as well. Like Nintendo is absolutely, hey, we don't get into this bullshit about console war stuff. You can own your PlayStation and your Switch. You can own your Xbox and your Switch, but you're always going to own the Switch, right?
Right.
And they've had that plan for a while now. They're not trying to keep up with the other ones in terms of hardware. In terms of hardware capabilities, rather. But like they're trying something different. They're trying something new, and we love them for it. They also have the nostalgia of having Zelda and Mario. You have Xbox, who clearly is behind Sony right now, and yeah, they're trying lots of things to get people's attention. They're doing this cloud gaming stuff. They're pushing with the X. They're pushing their console further than any other console has gone. They're trying a lot of things, and they're saying the right things. They want to be able to have this cross compatibility with games on different systems. All that's a really nice thing to say when you're in second place, because that's kind of what you got to do. Sony is in first place, so they don't want to necessarily relinquish some of that and go forth with some of that, some of these ideas that Microsoft's pushing, because they want to protect their place in the marketplace, and that's understandable. But I actually really like the stuff that Sony's saying. I think it's a bummer they're not going to be at E3 this year. I think it's a bummer that they don't have a lot of stuff to talk about right now. But I like their proposition of, we are a gaming console. We are we make you've been playing games like this for a very long time, and we want to allow you to keep playing games like this. We're not going to do something super crazy. We're not going to give you the ability to play on and off a TV like the Switch does. We're not going to get in. We have a cloud gaming service with PlayStation Now, but we found that the best way for people to play games is to have a system with a hard drive on it that people could download stuff to, and then they can have it. And they don't have to worry about this cloud stuff that may or may not work all the time. As a person who doesn't have a great internet connection, I love that. That speaks to me of, I like having my stuff and knowing that it will work when I turn it on. It's fantastic, and I know that it will work with my PlayStation. We had them talk about at the beginning of this generation, when Microsoft was going crazy with, no discs, and you're gonna do it all digitally, and it's gonna be great, and there's gonna be lockouts and shit. Somebody was like, hey, if you want your friend to borrow a game, you can just hand them your copy of the game, and it all works that way. And that was a great move of games have built a status quo, and we're keeping to that status quo, and we're going to make that status quo as great as it can possibly be. So when there was that Wired article that came out, that Wired interview with Mark Cerny about PlayStation 5 stuff I was hearing from him was all good stuff to me. It was, hey, this is a way more powerful PS4. It's a jump from a graphics and from a hardware perspective from this generation. But we're gonna have it be a system that is just better in every single way. We're gonna rip out that hard drive disk, and we're gonna put in an SSD. And it's going to be a really fast SSD. It's going to allow you to play games the way you know how to play games now, the way you like playing games now. And we're just going to make it better, because now they load faster. Now they can show more stuff on the screen. Now they can grab things quicker, and you can do fast travel better. That stuff speaks to me, because this is the way I like playing games. And that's why something like VR hasn't appealed to me that much, because it's a way different way of playing games, and I'm used to playing games in a very kind of specific way, and that's a very different way of playing. And it's cool, it's interesting, but it still feels like a gimmick to me.
It sounds a lot like them jumping from the PS2 to the PS3 to me.
Sure, I don't think it's quite as arrogant as PS2 to PS3, but in terms of, I mean, it's still early. They haven't had a chance to say, "Hey, it's $600. You'll get a second job for it." But and maybe they will. I can't imagine they would make that mistake again. But
They said it's going to be $500.
That's what you kind of expect, right?
Yeah,
I think that's what we would have paid for that. I don't know. I've been playing games this way for a very long time, and there's something nice knowing that the next generation of consoles isn't going to change all that much. I'm also of the opinion that I don't think we need a new generation of consoles at this point. I think you could just keep going half steps, and we're all fine. It's not going to be a big deal. But knowing the PS5 also will have backwards compatibility with all your PS4 games,
right? That's pretty
helps. Cool. I do want to see how that works from a digital perspective, because all those PS3 downloadable games didn't come to PS4.
Yeah.
You need to have that work on a PS5 if you want that if you don't want people to fucking riot if you've gone to this digital future and then follow through on it.
Yeah, I mean, the way, given how similar the architectures will be between the two platforms, I can't imagine it won't just be you turn it on and you can just download the games that you have previously purchased.
And that's how Xbox works. Like it's not every game, but it's the games that they know are compatible.
It's a lot, yeah.
I can go and download
all of the Xbox 360 games that I ever bought digitally. I can download on my Xbox One.
So it's wild. This is going to be, this is our May episode. I think next month we might have to
E3. Shit.
Maybe we throw in a little bonus one next month where we just kind of debrief E3.
Sure, I'd be up for that.
I mean, that seems like that's something we all really care about, and hell, it might not be as big this year, but I think that would be a lot of fun for us to.
Still excited
to maybe we do that. Maybe let's have like a reaction episode where we kind of unpack some of the stuff they announce. We'll let the 5 of you that listen to the show still know what we're gonna do here soon. Those plans. But if you really want to listen to some good content, better than this, Chase has something called Gamers on the Go. And it is
sometimes
it's a very good approach to a very specific type of gaming, and you've done that for a while now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it sounds like they're killing all the handheld systems, so maybe I'll be
Switch
out of a job at some point. But yeah, I have a podcast called Gamers on the Go. You can find it at gamersonthego.com. It's all about handheld video games. Past and present, so there's still plenty of stuff to talk about. It's me and a guest. We talk about a single game or series or franchise of games each episode, and we just like talk about the kind of inspiration for these games, the development of them, the mechanics, how they work, and then kind of the legacy that they left. Johnny's been on a recent episode of talking about Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS. And that was a good episode.
Fantastic.
I had my friend Matt Jaguar come on and talk about PAX East that happened somewhat recently, and an episode on that too. It's always nice to talk to him and talk about some of those games that are coming up. We talked about my friend Pedro. He played some of that on the show floor.
Nice,
good stuff. Yeah,
very cool, man.
So,
and then if anybody wants, if they want to follow you, do you do any of the social networking?
A little bit. I have a Twitter at Chase_Koeneke, Koeneke. I don't tweet a ton, and at this point, I feel like I'm tweeting more about baseball than I am about video games. But hey, I'm not tweeting Game of Thrones spoilers, so I'm better than most of your shitbag friends.
Yeah, that's true, man. That was rough. Cool. Johnny, what do you got going on outside of parenthood and video games?
Oh man, we went up to my wife's grandparents' farm this weekend and went hunting for some morel mushrooms. That was a lot of fun. And then we made a nice mushroom risotto last night with those mushrooms, and it was quite tasty.
So if you want to find Johnny, go outside and look for mushrooms, and he'll be there.
Looking for truffles like a pig.
Exactly. I'll be there.
Shroom man.
That's nothing else really. Just living life.
Are you on social networking?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, but I never check it.
He's
at Amizich.
At the Shroom Man.
The Shroom Man with the shroom hands.
Oh, God.
Gross.
Yikes.
Okay, well, moving on from that as far as we can. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I go by Lumberjack Smack outside of this show. Still starting to find my way with what I've been doing with that. So I'm on a podcast called Bounty Board, and also one called Postmortem that is on the Nerdy Bits channel. And that is one of those is a weekly podcast. The Bounty Board is a weekly podcast where we just basically talk about current happenings in gaming culture, and then we talk a bit about a game that we've been playing recently, what we've been listening to, watching, reading, etc. And then Postmortem is something we have not recorded one of the episodes yet. We're getting ready to do that, where we do a once a month, like, deep spoiler, like, we're going to take and unpack this game as much as we can. But for my own personal stuff, I've been really trying to get into some content creation around game videos, and something that I've been actively doing on Instagram is putting up a 1-minute review, like a very quick social bite of a game. It's not like a star rating or anything like that. It's just more like here's a hot take on a game. I try to post those like once a day. As I've mentioned more than once on the show tonight, it's been hard with Obi, the new puppy, to have time to play games and then go and edit video and do all the other stuff.
You should review your new puppy.
It would be 5-star review. He's a 5-star man.
Also, if you guys like the Division 2 open beta, then you gotta check out Lumberjack Smack's YouTube channel, because that's literally the only video on it.
Not true.
What? It was the last time I checked. Let's see. Lumberjack Smack YouTube channel. Oh, there's a second one. Oh, that doesn't count. That's this show. Fuck this show.
Honestly, most of my stuff right now is on Instagram.
On the gram.
So I've been uploading to Twitter and Instagram. It's been good. Like, I've been putting out a schedule of the games I'm going to be playing and what I'm going to be trying to focus on. And my main focus right now is trying to help you find games that you might already own or have access to through a service you're paying for currently. And I think that we've all, like, since doing this show with you guys and then doing podcasting for a couple of years now, it's always been about, like, helping people find new experiences they like. That's what it comes down to, myself included. And I look at, like, the Game Pass service. I look at the PlayStation Plus service where you get these free games every month. And so I try to focus in on those, and then a game that might be on sale. And then I am throwing up a few of the AAA titles as those releases come out. But I have a good idea. It's really just about the time and commitment to record like a 30-minute Let's Play or a 15-minute Let's Play or something like that, which is really what I started out to hope to do. And so I've kind of evolved this shorthand stuff in this getting there. It's a lot of fun. I play some really cool shit that I normally wouldn't play, but I'm still figuring out what I want to do. And
you're doing a good job.
Thanks.
Can we record like 31-minute Instagram posts about Super Robot Wars? Because like I'll have to take like at least a minute to talk about each mechanic in that game.
Honestly, like what I would do for that is just put my phone up on a tripod, and I would
not hit record and just say, Chase, why don't you just talk about Super Robot Wars and then let me go on and then
we
not
could do
anything about it.
Those Instagram stories, if you do the hands free, it just keeps going, and it does 15-second segments. So like literally it could just be like a dotted line of Super Robot Wars.
I hate this already.
When can I look forward to seeing this?
We might do a little. I might have Chase do a hot take on a Super Robot Wars for the story while we're there.
So hot.
So hot take. But yeah, that's on Instagram. Lumberjack Smacked on Instagram, and then I just go by my actual name, Bobby Pease, on Twitter. If you want to follow me there, I post all the same stuff there that I'm putting up on Instagram with those daily videos. And that's it. That's what I do. That's a very long way of telling you I'm not that interesting. So we will be back in a month, as we mentioned previously, to talk about a game we've been playing, but we'll do a bonus episode on E3, which that should happen probably like mid-month, I would say, right? Isn't E3 like the beginning of June?
It's usually like around like the 10th, 12th, 15th.
This show, if you're listening to it, you found it, but if you're going to find future episodes, currently we're going to be on SoundCloud for the time being and YouTube, but I think I'm going to try and get us back in syndication now that we got kind of a plan here, and get us back on some of those other platforms or RSS burners that you like. So we'll try and get on Spotify and iTunes and Stitcher and all that stuff again. But we've been kind of, pirate radio for the last month, so we'll figure it out from there. But we really appreciate you tuning in, and we'll talk to you next month.